First of all, I want to know, how do you only have 2 officials on a national TV game? It's a professional game. National TV. Can't happen.
Houston Rockets raced to a 26-point lead in the first half behind a barrage of 10 three-pointers and 12 turnovers by the Celtics. The threes were generated on a mix of nice offensive execution, like this low-post entry, but check the weak side action. A double pin down for Eric Gordon, who curls if he doesn't get it. Then PJ Tucker, the second screener, sets a pin down for Ariza, the first screener. The defense gets confused, and Ariza knocks down the open jumper. Another low-post entry to Harden draws the whole defense's attention, especially because the diminutive Larkin is trying to hold off Harden's post-up. Nader is stuck in complete no-man's land, not doubling, not in the proper weak side position along the lane line, so Harden flips a 35-foot bounce pass for another open look. Kyrie had a couple of turnovers off his normally impeccable dribbling ability, and the biggest fear of the Rockets is when they're coming down in transition looking for threes. Rozier gives Harden too much space, and he splashes it in his face. Another Kyrie turnover on the drive is more evidence of their fearsome running attack. Ariza ain't sprinting to the basket, even though that would have been open too. Easy pass for a wide open corner triple. You can even be back in great position on defense to stop their fast break, and it still doesn't matter, as Eric Gordon doesn't have much room, but still splashes this. This step-up screen was defended beautifully by Horford, and watch how Larkin bumps down on Tucker before closing out to Gordon in the corner. There's nothing he can do short of blocking this shot, and yet it still goes in. And the fast break doesn't have to be successful initially. Just by having Harden push the pace on the dribble a little bit, it quickly forces the defense out of position and into a switch, which earns a serious mismatch. Harden does his little ISO dance on Tice, then makes nice. The Rockets defense also did a very good job in the first half to take away a lot of the Celtics cutting. Nice rotation by Ariza to help on the Kyrie cut, then great pursuit by Gordon to stay attached to Kyrie, good bump and recover by Anderson, and fantastic pressure by Nene. Smart is able to relieve the pressure when Harden leaves him all alone out there, since Smart is only shooting 31% from 3. Poor spacing by Boston leaves nowhere for Smart to go, and Nene knocks the dribble away for a turnover. More good defense as Tucker hedges well to prevent Kyrie from turning the corner, and Weber gets back in position. Newcomer Draymond Green gets over the screen and cuts off Rozier very well, and I like how Tarek Black shows just enough to allow Green to recover. As the clock winds down, Morris just fumbles it away. And Briante Weber just cold steals Kyrie's cookies at midcourt. Another shocking move that doesn't happen to Kyrie hardly that often. So for the Celtics, it was just a matter of them cleaning up some of these uncharacteristic turnovers, as well as hope that the Rockets would cool down just a bit, and they'd probably get back in this game. And that's exactly what happened, as Boston committed only 1 turnover in the third quarter, while Houston gave it away 6 times. And the Rockets only went 1 for 8 from 3, allowing the Celtics to outscore them 31-16. While the Celtics were still down by 9 points to start the fourth, they were at home and had the advantage because the 2 refs were letting it be so physical. So sports fans, I had to bring Ronnie Nunn into the show for the last few minutes of this video because there are some serious plays that we have questions about and calls from the referees. And in case you're wondering whether Ronnie knows his stuff, he was an NBA referee for 19 years, head of officials for 5, and director of development for 3 more. And Ronnie, thank you for coming on and joining us, and I think we're going to jump right into it. What do you say?
Let's jump right into it.
All right, well, let's do it. We have 11.6 seconds to go, sideline out-of-bounds play, and Brad Stevens is renowned for his out-of-bounds plays, always getting his team great shots. This was no exception. However, we have a little bit of a monkey in the wrench, or whatever that term is, because Marcus Smart makes the catch in the mid-post area. What happens here? What did the refs miss?
Well, this is a travel that we've missed anywhere on the court, anytime in the game. And it's this shuffling of feet where, you know, it's amazing that the players have no conscientiousness of it. They do it, and I think they do it just like, you know, when you're training anybody, if you don't get them in place, they end up doing the same thing over and over. I mean, we've done this in the first quarter, and look, it's down here at 8.9 seconds, and it's happening. And I think the officials really are not attentive to this travel. And a lot of people think, well, it's no advantage gained and this, that, and the other. But it's a bold, crazy travel. I mean, when would you let this go? Well, maybe with 7- and 8-year-olds that are just learning the game. The problem is this is something to address and clean up. And the officials probably don't believe it as a priority play to go get. And by the way, at that time in the game, it seems to hurt if you call that violation. But, you know, the purists say it's clear. That's a travel. Why give that?
Right.
And I think one way or the other, and someday or another, we're going to have to address this so that we don't have the egg in our face as officials.
I agree. And Tony Brothers is standing right at the baseline, no more than 8 feet away, and he's craning his neck, staring right at the ball, which is, you know, hard to believe that he couldn't see that what was going on, and then if not, then made a decision to simply not call it. But it's a crucial moment here, and the fact that they run this nice out-of-bounds play for a dunk and cut it to 1 with such little time on the clock, that seems a little bit too much of an advantage for the Celtics. Yeah,
it's you know, and Brothers is hypnotized like all of his brothers on in the field that we're working with, because guys are not looking for that. They're really looking for waist up, key plays, a flick of the ball, a foul on the wrist. They're so focused on that, they're not watching feet.
Well, right after this play happens, that now the Rockets need to inbound the ball, and they don't have any other timeouts left, so they have to get it in, and they're up by 1 at this point. So we now have a little bit of a tussle on the right side of the floor, and Tony Brothers, you know, right in front of him, Marcus Smart goes down, and he makes a call of an offensive charge or offensive push. What's your take on this play?
No, I like this play. It looks like the extension of the arms. I'm looking from elbow to wrist on this play, and that's what we're looking at. And I hope he doesn't get blocked out. I hope he can see on the baseline that there's a real extension from elbow to wrist, because the arms are tight, closer to the body by the elbow, and all of a sudden this player defensively goes down. Now, if there's a light push and he embellishes it, we should let it go. But if there's an extension and it finishes, that's on Harden.
Really hard to see a little bit on the reverse angle because it's off at the very edge of the screen. But I don't know. I don't know if I see that left arm straightening all the way to push off. And I'm going to say that was a flop. It looked like, to me, he engages Harden and kind of brings him in and kind of to bring him, and then uses that leverage to then propel himself backwards, certainly in a much more violent way than what the motion indicated to me, as Harden is starting to already move to his left or to his right. There's not a lot of sort of push-shove there. But, okay, so, you know, that was one call. It ended up being crucial. We continue this play where now they run another out-of-bounds play, and Al Horford gets a hard-to-make layup, good defense, good no call, right? Pretty much everything stood up straight, no problems. And then we now have the problem where there's, again, no more timeouts. The Rockets are in a rock and a hard place in this instance because, you know, are they even going to get a shot in the front court at this point within, you know, less than 4 seconds to go? However, they deserve a chance. You never know what might happen. There could be a foul. There could be all sorts of things that happen. So talk us through this, because what's interesting is now that they're getting mixed up, and we do know that Marcus Smart is an instigator. He's already kind of, you know, as the ball's going in, they're already tussling. Tony Brothers gets involved. What's he doing in this point before the inbounds play happens?
Yeah, he's trying to get in there because it's a critical time in the game. And even if it weren't a critical time in the game, you know the energy is high for the players involved, and all of a sudden they're confronting each other. This is not a time for a quick double tech or a quick single tech. It's a time to facilitate, get in, redirect them, recognize you're there, policing the situation, and getting some space so they can continue their play, either going to a timeout or going to set up the play and finish their play. But you get in there, and of course this happened the other day with Durant and Calderon in the Cleveland game with Golden State, where official again did the same thing. So this is consistent. This is excellent officiating, and it doesn't reach the line where you have to issue a technical foul. Well, one of the things that he sucks Harden into is that Harden refuses to take another path. He's already in the path that he wants to go. Harden wants the same path, and now he kind of funnels into the defender's web. And that's what he does. So finally, when he does do a push, it's going to work in his favor because Harden has already taken 3 or 4 steps directly into him, almost like the opposite if one was doing a back down on offense. So he goes through him. He finally pushes. It's too obvious. He created a scenario that ended up resulting in that push. It's, you can't take – that's more than a flop. And even though it's an embellishment to some degree, it's already started something. We've already seen that initiation of that movement, and he really puts himself in a bad way.
So how do you mitigate that when you're talking about a player who's allowed to cut, right? He needs to be able to cut to a part in the floor versus a defender who has right to his own position on the floor. So, is it because he's trying to go towards the ball? If he was going away from the ball, then that can't be an offensive foul?
Well, I think what he's trying to do, and players try to do it, is they try to take the defender down or away before they make the cut for the opening because they don't like where they are to all of a sudden I'm going to make the cut and open myself. This is basketball talk now. So, this is the kind of play where if that defender has got you to that position, you've got to cut early and get maybe around in front of him because he's got you. So as you take him downward and then elect to put your hands on him and put a push, maybe it's a 50-50 push. You've already created, as I was trying to say before, a kind of profile of where you're going and what you're trying to do. And all of a sudden, the tipping point has already passed, and the slant goes from a 50-50 play to all of a sudden a 55-60 versus 40-45 percent play, and you hence the offensive foul. And a good offensive foul call here.
I think I changed my mind. I thought it wasn't a good call, but watching it again and talking to you, I think I see it's not as much the hands pushing him out and away, it's the shoulder planting it into his chest and using that as a battering ram more than anything else to get him through. And I think the mistake that Harden makes is, A, great point. He needs to take a different vector and get out of the way, but before the inbounds play happens, Tony Brothers walks over to them and actually puts his hands up and says, hey, guys, stop doing whatever you're doing because there was a tussle under the basket. Now all eyes are on them, and you can't do anything. You need to know that they're all staring right at you, and you can't do anything to even invoke the notion of a foul, much less lower your shoulder.
Yeah, I think you explained it perfectly. And, this is how in officiating you begin to recognize the roots of a play. And veteran people have to see the roots of the play to the point where you're saying, okay, I can give you some more rope, I can give you some more rope, and now all of a sudden you've kind of hung yourself because you've done something above and beyond, and we can't pull it back. The milk is already out of the jar. So excellent call, and a thought for Harden is to recognize that kind of maneuver, even at key times in the game, is a poor thinking maneuver. And this is a guy who's very creative in getting open, scoring, and all the right offensive things. He's very good in that vein. So we'll see what happens in the future for him.
Absolutely. Now, Harden was quoted after the game really questioning why they allowed the game to be played with only 2 referees. The third referee had back spasms and couldn't go. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I was hired by the NBA in the 2-person system, what they called the 2-man at that time. We did it for 5 years. It was a tremendous way to learn and a tremendous way to keep up because you had to cover places on the floor that we don't have to cover as much today, but there was more overlap. I think in the 3-person mechanic, we need the concept of that overlap, even though we have 3.
Okay, so definitely, you have no issue with them playing the game. I think Harden actually said they should not have played the game with only 2, and I think that sounds a little bit far-fetched.
Yeah, that's a stretch, and I hate to see him complain about something like that. But listen, in those days you had 1 if 1 got hurt and the game went on. As a matter of fact, there was a sense of mercy with that. That same sense of mercy should go on, and he should embrace that. But young people today are takers more than givers, and young people today don't have the experience of the past. And that's just one of those statements he could have let go.
Sure. Well, thank you, Ronnie, so much for coming on the show today. Really enlightening, and hopefully the Rockets fans will tamp down some of their agita as we go through the rest of the season and they get healthy and probably don't get anywhere close to losing a 26-point lead again. And glad to have you back on. We'll see you again real soon. And don't forget, sports fans, at BBallBreakdown, we're not a channel, we're a conversation. You in? Are you in, Ronnie?
All the time. Thanks, Nick. Glad to be with you. I'm in.
Sports fans, to see more of our great NBA content and analysis, make sure to hit the subscribe button, but also click the bell and adjust your settings so you can get an alert the second our videos drop. Because trust me, you're going to want them hot and fresh. You in?